Hi, everyone. Victoria Ali here. I'm the author of Survival 101, Life Guidebook, as well as a life navigator and a self-help addict, as you can see from my small library here. Anyway, today what's on my mind to talk about with you is relationships. And the reason why is because I think that relationships and the way that I navigate those relationships and communicate within those relationships and act is actually the glue to getting all of my needs met in one way or another. And that's why I think it's so important to stop now and then and really consider what I'm doing in my relationships. So what I'd like to talk about today is what impacts the way that I behave, act, and speak in those relationships. To begin with, the relationships I'm referring to today are all the relationships with human beings in my life, and possibly even animals, but definitely human beings. And it starts off in childhood. What are the relationships that I have with my parents from very early on? What are the relationships I have with my siblings, my friends at school, the teachers at school, and the clubs that I'm part of, and then moving on to the coworkers that I work with when I get older, the employees that I have, the business partners I have, the clients that I have, all these are different types of relationships that, to me, the way that I communicate within those relationships and act is, like I said, the glue. Because especially when I was a baby, I absolutely needed for my physical needs, to get water, milk, food, housing, clothing to keep myself protected. Somebody had to change diapers. I mean, it was on that level that I was dependent on other people. And those relationships, how did they teach me? Did they, feed me when I needed to be fed? Did I have to experience some hunger? All these things affect the way that I think about people, about relationships in the world when I get older, especially. And so a lot of the ideas and beliefs that I came up with as a child are the ones that I carry into adulthood, including the relationships and the way that I communicated with myself and with anything bigger. If I believed in a higher power, some kind of a universal spirit, nature. So let's go back and talk a little bit about these old beliefs. It's the second thing I wanted to really kind of outline. So when talking about these older beliefs that I got as a child, an example would be that there are times when my parents or other caregivers would show me some nurturing and show me some unconditional love. And these times might look like where they're being kind with me, where they're being patient, where they are supporting me or validating me, especially before age 12, when a lot of us might start validating ourselves at that point. So if I have those moments in my childhood, I get a sense of the fact that I'm okay. The world is basically okay. There might be tough times, but ultimately I can soothe myself. I can get through these things in life. And, I'm protected. So I start to find out that that's the way that I see the world. And as I get older, of course, and go off on my own, I learn some of the harsh realities the hard way, but yet I still have that foundation. Now, there are other situations that I grew up with. I had some of those nurturing moments for sure, but I also had some of the more difficult moments growing up where my parents were tired or frustrated, or maybe they'd been drinking. There were times when they had a lot of anger or even uncontrollable rage, or they had criticism, they had blame, they had invalidation. They told me that I looked stupid when I cried. They tried to shame me out of having feelings. There were things like that that did happen in my upbringing, which I'm sure happened to them when they were growing up as well. So out of those types of experiences, in addition to some of the things that I learned on my own from tough situations that we learn as we get older and take risks, what I got was some belief systems that followed me into my 20s. And some of those belief systems took the form of, I can't trust anybody. I can't trust myself. I can't trust animals. They die on me. Or I trust that there's not enough to go around in the world. There's scarcity, which is something I learned growing up with my mom when, we were kind of under the poverty line. And although it's interesting, while I was under the poverty line, there was a lot of abundance that I felt that didn't show up later when I had more money, ironically. Maybe some of you can comment on that. or any of these things that are bringing up some thoughts for you. Anyway, getting back to this point, I also believed, so there wasn't enough. I believed I wasn't enough. I kind of felt like a burden and a hassle to one or both of my parents at times when I was a kid, and I think that they were stressed out as well. And I kind of had to watch their mood. What mood are they in? So as I grow up and I start thinking these things, I also start thinking, wow, I'd like to get somebody like my dad that expresses some anger and the fact that maybe I'm not good enough or whatever in some ways. And I end up dating men who now start giving me those feedbacks. And so I end up with the same movie that I'm in as an adult with different actors. And I keep trying to get people that are unavailable in some way, emotionally, financially, safety wise, to be available. And it's something that I'm doing probably from my childhood, is what I've found out for myself. And so I finally was motivated sometime in my mid-20s to take a second look at these belief systems that I had. Because I'm going to be honest with you, when I started doing this research into my true belief systems about the world, about myself, about others, I ended up underneath it all feeling like I'm a subhuman freak that accidentally happened. I'm a mistake. I shouldn't be here. And that's a really tough place to be when you find out that that's how you're operating. Because what kind of jobs do you think I was able to get when I thought I was worthless? Versus as I started to come around and see that I was priceless, as everybody else is, what kind of jobs do you think I got then? And what kind of relationships do I get into if I think that I'm not worth anything, or a burden and a hassle to people and it's all my fault or it's all their fault? Versus what kind of a person will I marry if I really think that I am valuable and that they're valuable, and that we're both on the same side of the ring against our insecurities and our human challenges that we all have. And I want to stop here and tell you, this is one of the beliefs I have that I've learned from other mentors of mine that really helped me, is this vision of, we are all on the planet on the same side of the ring against our fears, against our insecurities, against our ignorance of things that we don't know what we don't know. So when I first started exploring these belief systems that I have, like, well, why do I think that I'm a subhuman freak? Well, it's because look what happened when I was drinking in college and I made a fool of myself. I mean, there are things like that that came up. And so I had all this evidence to support these beliefs that I not only got from childhood, but I also got from my own experiences, and continued to add to those old belief systems of not being enough. People can't be trusted. I can't be trusted. There's not enough in the world. If you ask for what you need, you won't get it. You'll get less than if you hadn't have asked in the first place, which, by the way, was a reality in my childhood growing up, because that's just the way it rolled around our house sometimes. So anyway, getting back to this concept that at the end of the day, what I do believe is this concept that we're all on the same side of the ring against our insecurities, against what we don't know. And as I started to explore these old beliefs that I had, I started to hear some things that gave me compassion for myself and for everybody else on the planet, which is, I didn't know what I didn't know. You know, take a look at the finances. I was in deprivation, scarcity thinking in my early 20s when I was in college, trying to just make it. And so what I would do is I would not spend anything. I would be practically anorexic, literally food-wise and everything. And then something would come along and I'd be like, oh man, that's it. I'm just going to go spend all this money on buying this keyboard for $1,000, which, back in the day, that was a lot of money. But, student loans, and that's the problem, is that, we get to learn these things. In any case, I can't say it was a good or a bad decision in the long run to be in a little garage band, where I still feel I could have done better than that too. Okay, I'm stopping now, and I'm not going to gather any more evidence for these old beliefs. I'm going to shift to the fact that I finally got the concept that I didn't know what I didn't know. And so guess what? I did the best I could with my finances in my early 20s. I didn't understand the concept of abundance and prosperity. I didn't understand the concept of clarity with your numbers. But I digress from relationships. Let's get back to that. The bottom line is that big reason I wrote this book, Survival 101, is because by 50 years old, I actually ended up in a situation where I was able to connect with my soulmate, who I'm married with today. And yes, I had a wonderful time with other people I dated, had a wonderful marriage with my kids' father. And I don't have any regrets or old resentments against anybody. But what I do have is the fact that I told myself at one point in my 40s, if I ever end up with a good relationship, then I'm going to do something to put this information out there. And this is what I found out. I found out that I need to be able to be okay no matter what else anybody else is doing around me. I need to be able to give and receive unconditional love, not conditional love. I need to be able to tell people this is what I want in this relationship and this is what I don't want, whether it's a work relationship, whether it's a romantic partner, and get a clarity around that. I actually learned that from doing numbers, from doing financials, is I learned, if I know what I want, what I don't want, and I'm clear on that, and I keep adding to the list as I learn more, then adding to that these concepts that the truth is the opposite of what my old beliefs are. I am a priceless child in this universe, and I have a lot to give. I'm a bright light, brilliant light. And the light in me sees the light in you right now. And that's what I choose to see. I see you and I both on the same side of the ring against our insecurities, against our doubts. We're not alone. There are people that are always out there that are willing to be in this state of mind as well, in this reality. And it's not a figment of imagination. It's not crazy. It's a reality. And so I just want to say that even if I find out later when I pass away from this life that I was wrong and it's actually this crazy, dangerous, insane, nobody cares about anybody, everybody's in it for themselves kind of world. Okay, fine. While I was here, I had a really full, happy, prosperous, abundant life. Anyway, that's what I have to talk about today about relationships is question our old beliefs, take a look at believing the opposite of those and see where that takes us. Yeah, I mean, as far as trusting people, what I learned is like, I can trust people to be themselves. I can't necessarily trust them to keep an agreement. I can trust them to be themselves. If they break an agreement more than twice in a contract or something, then I know, well, I probably won't do business with them anymore. But then I'm accepting them and I'm not having expectations that they're anyone other than who they are. And I don't have judgment against people that have a different belief systems than I do. I try not to. So anyway, I've really enjoyed this time together. I just want you to know that I'm wishing you today health, happiness, and prosperity today and always in all areas of your life. Take care until we meet again.